This show is listener supported at patreon.com/Cameron_Adair and by writing a rating or review in the Apple Podcast app, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, etc., where you're probably listening right now. If you enjoyed the show, consider pledging $5 on Patreon. After 3 years, we hit the top 100 podcast chart last year, and I wouldn't continue to make the show without all the support. You can also leave a voice message for the show through a link in the show notes. This is the Cameron Adair podcast with me, Cameron Adair. This is episode 26. Today on the show is Spencer Keeton Cunningham. He's the first return guest, having been on episode 11. Episode 11 has always been my favorite episode. It really distilled what I was trying to accomplish with this show. We met up at the Westerfeld house where Anton LaVey used to live in Alamo Square. I've known Spencer since around 2007 when we were both making art and music in San Francisco. He hit me up out of the blue a couple weeks ago, having moved back to San Francisco, and I suggested we do an episode by phone, another first for this show. He is still making work. He is showing in galleries. He's painted all over the world. He recently did all the artwork for the Winter X Games. He's done album art for musicians you've probably heard of. He did the artwork for this show as well as the original artwork when we started 4 years ago. He's also one of the few people who've given credence to the sculpture and vinyl prints that I made for my LP. But believe me, it's not without complete reciprocation. Vinyl and hats, as well as the original sculpture, are for sale on my website. This turned out to be a 3-part episode. The first being with Spencer from his car in San Francisco, and then at Spencer's suggestion, chiming in with his partner in crime, Erlin Geoffroy, the Haitian San Franciscan artist who I've known about for probably 8 years from Philadelphia. And then the third part, episode 28, back with Spencer at his studio. I'm in my studio in Echo Park. Here's Spencer.
Where are you, on the 80 or what?
I was just painting on this reservoir off of 280. There's deer over there sometimes, and I like painting over there outside. And driving up now, I didn't expect there to be all this traffic. It's normal rush hour traffic time, but sometimes there's tech traffic at all hours, like at any time, so it's kind of bizarre.
I've driven that route a million times.
Yeah, 280 is really nice. It's peaceful.
What reservoir? Wait, so you just take your stuff up to the woods and go nuts?
Yeah, I like to explore every day. I like to explore something new every single day. And usually I just paint in those places. Be like horses around, or I just painted a weird painting. This lady wanted to see it. And I was like, whoa, I don't know if you want to see this. I showed her the landscape thing I did of the lake. Hid the golden chicken stabbing a wolf in the stomach, a knife.
And she thought you were doing realism.
I did one. I do like the Van Gogh thing, I just go out, and if I can try to finish everything all in one hole, and just exhaust myself to the point where I'm like freezing to death and shit.
I'm trying to find out the date of our old episode on the computer.
I think it was 2016.
Yep. February 29th is when it was published.
It's good too to do a revisited one. Like me and Erlen are doing like this native futurism, Afro-futurism kind of show that I'm kind of co-curating with a museum, and that's gonna be in like 2022, I think. So it's on this like future sci-fi, but also like current day perspective of that.
What museum?
It's at SF State University. I forget the name of what they call their space, but it's like a little museum space. The other show I did there was, I think, a little bit after the time I did the interview with you, and it was did a show that was 20 years in the curation with some of the leading top indigenous, like North American indigenous, like artists in the past 100 years. You know, it was like some of them were dead, like Fritz Shoulder. James Luna just passed away. He was in the show, but that was the other show we did in the space. It was 20 years into curation. And now I'm kind of stepping in and be like, hey, you know, stimulating the idea, and now it's going to happen to do 2022 native futurism, Afrofuturism with Erlen. Erlen's into the idea of Afro-pessimism, too. You can ask him about that, too. He knows a lot about it kind of in a hard way. Is the audio okay?
You're kind of noisy.
Okay, that's the sound of a wind around my car.
What, do you got a convertible going down or what?
Subaru Outback.
You got a different Subaru?
Yeah, my 1992 exploded. I was basically like working on it with this guy that just needed work, and we're just like, we basically ripped the engine out of my old car and like taking things out, putting it back in. I'm making like a documentary movie about how crazy this dude is, just could rip an engine in half and like put it back in the car, and then it was just overheating a lot, so I could only drive like a few miles and have to put water in it.
I had a Subaru Legacy wagon. I think it was a 2000 for the longest time when I lived in the city, and I loved that car. I would always burn out the clutch, though, because of all the hills. It was a manual.
Yeah, dude, Subarus last a long time. My current one's only got 115,000 miles on it. It's a 2002, so I could probably at least get a couple 100,000 before it explodes. I like cars that can drive through mountains, you know?
I love my Subaru. I slept in the back of it a handful of times. Took it everywhere. It just seemed so durable. And I sold it when I got my Mercedes, and that Mercedes didn't last a year and a half.
Yeah, dude, it's my theory that all two-wheel drive cars are just not cars. If you don't have an all-wheel drive car, you're just basically driving a dangerous toy. And like a four-wheel drive car, I mean, it'll save your life, you know, four-wheel drive. So that's why I only drive cars. Even when I rent a car,
You're the first one to do a second visit. So
two-time.
Welcome back. Two-timing.
Double take. This one's like the phone. Maybe we could do a better audio later. We could do a mic recording at the same time as the phone recording, and then
that's how it's
really
done.
Good mic.
They call it tape sync in radio or in like journalism when they do that. You used to have to hire a tape sync guy, and it was like an audio engineer who would just do tape syncs, and then he'd take
just when it's from afar when you're doing it on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. And then they'd mail you the tape. What's changed? What have you been up to? I know you did 16, 17, 18, so it's like 2.5 years, man. I know you did the art for the X Games, which is fucking awesome.
It was bizarre when they first contacted me, because I just was like, who is this? And it was like a Disney type of, it was an email where I just thought, I was like, is this fake or something? And then I found out it was real. It was kind of like, is this Spencer Keeton Cunningham? And they said they wanted to do something I hadn't done before, because they usually use Disney Creative Services, because Disney owns ESPN owns X Games. So from the get-go, my design was I was incorporating like Disney propaganda into it. So before I even agreed to do it, I was gonna like, in my own mind, I'm like, I'm just gonna sneak this propaganda in, sneak the animal extinction in, deforestation, native issues like oil-filled lakes with like skulls sinking into the oil with the animals like sinking into the oil, and they didn't even catch it up until like a week before everything went live on TV. And they said, oh, this is, I probably shouldn't talk about this. I could get sued. That's all I'll say about that. I want to say exactly what they said to me, because I feel like I could get sued or something. They send contracts over, and, I look at a contract, I go, no, none of that's going to go. We're going to have to just going back and forth with their lawyers. Like, this has to be a special contract for me. I don't want to forfeit droit moral, which is like it's like Latin for like your rights to your art. And
my contract law education is limited.
I just had to educate myself, just basically go through every line and then underline and highlight. They said, if you have problems, you just highlight stuff. I highlighted like the whole thing, and it's just a lot of back and forth until you get what you want. It's like a good lesson for people that ever have to do like a really big thing like that. Is just like, don't fold in and just forfeit all your rights. You can always like fight, and in the end they'll have to choose another artist, I guess, if they can't do it with you. And I'm glad they wanted my art and didn't want to just say, oh, let's find someone who's easier. Because they said the other artists they contacted were Jim Phillips. I don't know if it was Jim Phillips Sr. or his son, and then the other one was Ralph Steadman. I was like, why the hell did you guys contact me? Those are, I guess, crazy, you know? So I'm not anywhere near the caliber of either of those artists. I guess Ralph Steadman did a little thing for him, but I was the artist I ended up going with. It's funny, speaking of like Jim Phillips, I was just emailing him today. Was a part of an art project helping sharks with him like a while back, and I would just send him an email out of the blue. I was like, I wonder if he's still doing his thing, you know, and he just responded back talking about cementing his basement and talking about his health. And I was going to try to make a documentary film on him, but he's had people try to make a film that never came out, and he's kind of, I think, a little bit bitter about the idea of a documentary film. And we've exchanged art. You know, I think he gave my T-shirt to his one of his relatives. In exchange, he gave me a shirt that he kind of hand drew on and stuff. And he's a nice guy. He's like, you know, just emailed him back and forth quite a few times. He's like, you know, keep in touch.
Does he live in the Bay Area?
He lives in Santa Cruz. He's the guy that you know, Jim Phillips.
I know who he is. Yep.
Because some people don't know who Jim Phillips is. He made the Screaming Hand. I think that he designed the Independent logo. He showed me like the footage of the film that didn't come out, and it's got like Chad Muska and like all these other skateboards like talking about how influenced and how stoked they were on his art, but it's like a film that just never came out. So he's kind of bummed about that. Yeah,
that's one thing I became more accepting of the last few years I've been in LA. Well, I was supposed to do a video for someone, and I did treatments and I did all this work. And actually this happened twice. There was meetings, treatments, a script, call sheets, and then somebody backed out and it never happened. And that happens so much. It's crazy. You just have to kind of become immune to it.
Yeah, like with what Jim Phillips showed me of his trailer, it seems like the guys made a super epic trailer, but they almost gave away too much of the story in the trailer, and then that was it. And didn't really ever come out, which is sad. But it reminds me of our friend Danilo Parra, because he's doing that in a real big way right now.
Yeah.
Making big videos left and right, getting I think like 1 million views and stuff, and I was super proud of him.
Yeah, I have a couple friends who
dropping on the scene. EP.
Danny's cool. Yeah, his episode I think was right before or after yours, those years ago. We went to the Vice offices in Brooklyn. Yeah, I mean, he really found a place over there. He interned for Vice. I don't know, got lucky, I think. But he's always been, I mean, all of us, we all grew up together and we all made videos. Harry does video professionally now too.
I remember him, yeah. And they're all skateboarders.
Yeah, we were all skaters. We made some skate videos back in those days. But yeah, Danny, we have a lot of history, but I won't talk to him for 5 years or something, you know?
Yeah, other than Erlen too, like Danilo's one of my favorite artists. He paints too, and I was out at his house in New York a couple of years ago, and he's painting a bunch of paintings at his house while he was in Laos. And so I think I left like 15 paintings or something in his house. I think one of them scared his girlfriend.
At his apartment in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I was there in the wintertime, kind of living there for a little bit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just pulled into In-N-Out Burger, man.
I was going to say, you should stop by In-N-Out Burger.
No way. Yeah, I just pulled in.
Yeah.
Do you want to...
Do I want anything?
No. Do you want a burger? Do you want to chime in with Erlen?
Okay. I want to know how the X Games approached you and found out about you. Okay. And I also want to know what the scope of the work that you had to do for them was.
I'll simplify it real quick. I mean, they approached me just through email. And like I said, I didn't know what it was, but I wanted to make a kind of design critiquing, there's like a brain on fire while people are watching TV and stuff like that. I wanted to critique the thing that I was designing it for, not just to design a corporate thing, but I think it did get seen by hundreds of millions of people. And one of the coolest things, I think, was designing the gold medal, because the guys that create the gold medal, I think they really take their job seriously. And just having your drawings being turned into a gold medal is kind of cool. Gold, bronze, and silver. And so they did the gold medal, all the medals for the snowboarders, and then they also throughout the design, I think of the course, and there's screens, like digital screens as well. Different. I focused on like the native species in Aspen is where it was. So there was different species that were native to Aspen, but I was talking about like the extinction of those animals and kind of in a future scenario where all the humans have passed away and just animals left and we're all dead, sunken into oil. It's all like a extinction kind of design. So I did all those things. I went out there and it was cool to see. They had my art all around the stage for Lil Wayne, and I said, "You want to meet Lil Wayne?" And I was like, "I don't, he meets a lot of people. I don't really need to meet him." It would have been cool, shake his hand and say, "Oh, you made this gold medal. Cool." It was a big event, and seeing the guys go off the jumps, I didn't get to see a lot of it, but they're huge, and just people can die going off the jumps and people doing backflips on snowmobiles and all that stuff. And for me, coming from a skateboarding background, and I'm not really into competitions or anything like that, I'm more into the idea of skateboarding or whatever, that snowboarding, anything like that to me is like you just go out and film it with your friends and it's not really competitive. But some people might think it's really weird to do that type of art, but they just contacted me and I created it in my own weird way. So in my own particular history that only I know inside my brain, it's kind of like a performance. I was like stepping outside myself and just like making this thing as like a performance piece and be like, I snuck that into the mainstream. That's funny.
I don't watch the X Games, so I didn't catch any of it. I have no idea even what your presence looked like.
I had people just contact me out of the blue just from high school and stuff and say, "Hey, I saw you on TV," or a couple people on the street recognized me in San Francisco for a minute. I was like, that's fucking crazy, dude. Because they made a little film. So they did one on me and one on Lil Wayne. And then that premiered before and during the X Games. It also played on like ABC and ESPN, ESPN2. So these things are like playing constantly on TV and then during the X Games. So, it made my mom proud. And that was, I guess, the coolest part of it. So my mom was like, "Oh, wow, you're on TV." The guys that came and made the little documentary on me, they were skateboarders. It's like Mike Manzuri, who helped make Minakamati, the S video, and he's done a bunch of Etnies videos.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy, Jesse, these are both just like skateboarders from back in the day that just make films, and it was cool hanging out with them, just skating and making a little artist profile for ABC. There was more to it, but yeah, the X Games stuff was weird. I mean, I'm really not into the whole like Mountain Dew, like extreme and fucking. To me, it's really funny, like all that stuff. It's not what skateboarding or snowboarding is to me. It was fun. There was snow there, and they flew me out and got like mountain pass to go snowboarding, and that was pretty fun.
So your studio in Portland, do you just fly back and forth? You'll drive up there to work there? Or why do you keep it?
I drive up, I fly. I was living in Canada for a long time. I still kept it because I frequented Portland a lot to create like my studio in Portland. It's like a studio apartment with a loft I built in a warehouse that is in a gallery space that my friend Gage Hamilton runs. He also runs this thing called Forest for the Trees in Portland. And so he basically curates every wall in Portland, every like really big mural, every, international artist who wants to come paint something big. That guy that has that warehouse, that's the hub for Forest for the Trees, also has me and a photographer in it and a woodworker in it that are creating things. And right now I'm back down in San Francisco and I'm creating a lot of things here, but I'll be going back to Portland shortly to create more stuff up there. It's a studio that I built. It's a studio that just kind of, I looked at it and I said, this has a lot of potential. I built the walls on cement. So it was like building wood walls on a cement wall. And I actually built the walls from a mural that was installed in Seattle that had just been sitting around. So all these walls are built from a mural, but it's flipped on its back.
It's very meta.
Yeah, metadata. I just passed that Daly City mini ramp. I don't know if you ever skated that.
Oh, man, I used to go there all the time. I learned to blunt fakie on that ramp.
That's cool. I saw kids skating it one time, a long time ago, and their T-shirts are so big, and the kids themselves were so small. All you saw was these T-shirts and this little tiny slice of pants and shoes, and they're like ripping it. And these little kids were just shirts, like big shirts, like skating. I've never seen anything like it.
What I don't get is when on Instagram there'll be like some little kid doing kind of goofball tricks, and then really distorted trap music playing during the whole clip. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't watch skateboarding on Instagram. I don't see Instagram. I'm calling you from a flip phone, man.
Oh yeah.
I don't have an iPhone or anything, so I think I know what you're talking about as far as like edits. Maybe I've seen something on YouTube, maybe like that, but
no, it's a total Instagram thing.
I'm not at the Instagram world, so I'm not sure. I see Instagram.com. If I wanted to see Instagram, I go to Instagram.com on a computer, but
that's probably good for your head. I don't keep it installed on my phone, and then I'll install it when I post something, and then I'll take it off. I did that already today. You're on there though. You're on there. You got a good following.
Yeah, I don't have an iPhone anymore, but I just found a way. If I need to upload something or whatever, I can do it on a computer. If I want to message on it, I can do it on a computer, and I'll just do it like at the end of the day. I don't see it all day. It's just kind of like an email system to me.
Yeah, it's terrible for you. We talked about that already.
All the time. Yeah, psychologically, to have that in your hand all the time. I don't want a screen in my hand all the time, so I just have a basic flip phone. It's like a walkie-talkie.
It's the way to go.
I didn't have a phone for a year. I just got this one like semi-recently. People were mad I didn't have a phone for a year. It's just kind of, they can't get a hold of me. I kind of like to not be able to be gotten a hold of, though. During that whole time that I did all the art for Disney, X Games, ESPN, whatever you want to call it, I didn't have a phone. There's no need to use a phone, really, most of the time. Called my mom from a payphone.
They still have payphones? What, in Portland?
Yeah, I would just call my mom every once in a while from a payphone, and I have my old phone card, which I still have memorized. I always have that memorized.
I'm constantly listening to podcasts. Well, I'll go in and out of it, but I fall asleep with podcasts on.
I haven't done the internet thing when I was falling asleep for a minute, just because in Portland, like, the internet doesn't work at my studio. In San Francisco, the internet's spotty where I stay, so okay. I got to pay attention now. I'm getting back on the freeway. Let's see.
All right, I have to re-up on caffeine, and then I'm going to a premiere tonight. I did music for this short film, and it's premiering in 37 minutes, so.
Oh, shit. Let's get Erlen on, dude.
All right, let me grab my coffee. Hang on.
We have to go, and then maybe we can do a couple sessions if you need more. Should you have a little lead up before we have Erlen on? Introduce him?
Sure, yeah. Is he ready? Should we text him? Or?
Yeah, he is. No, just call him. But we're about to chime in with Erlen Adonis Geoffroy.
All right.
A fellow painting collaborator, close friend of mine for, about 12 or 13 years. We've made a lot of different art together, do a lot of art shows together. Some people would claim we're kind of controversial. And he's one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite people to collaborate with, and I feel like he's a family member of mine in a sense, and art family, but also in just like a normal family way. And Erlen is one of my favorite artists, a Haitian-American painter. I think he was a child prodigy painter. I hadn't seen him for about a year or two, and then he just flew into SF when I arrived here, and we made like a 30-foot painting and made a bunch of art and some music, and then he jumped on the plane. So he lives in Philadelphia, and he's a college professor, I think at Penn State, and he wants me to come lecture his class next. He's got his MFA. Professor Erlen.
No shit.
To the rescue.
You've been listening to the Cameron Adair podcast made by me, Cameron Adair. Thanks to Spencer. This has been part 1 of 3 Spencer Sandwich Triptych series. This show's at podcast.cameronadair.com, where you can find links to everywhere it exists. Consider pledging $5 on the Patreon page. Thanks for listening.